was to do a diversity and access thing for the festival and everything else. And I was the real archetypal grumpy git when I got there. The last thing I wanted to do was a health and safety diverse, but it was really quite interesting, actually. It really was.
Yeah.
About all sorts of things that Monique, her name was, she was from the Caribbean, or her lot had come from the Caribbean. Right, well, it looks as if it's now 6:05, and there's not many of us here, to be fair.
Where is everybody?
I didn't realize, Janet, that so you live by yourself and you can't get out.
Well, I can get taxis and things like that, but no, yeah,
Right.
I can't drive and I can't walk at the moment. Well, I've got a wheeled Zimmer frame, but I'm still not very stable. So that's just how things are at the moment.
Right. So I'm gonna kick off and tell you something. I'm going to tell you a little anecdote. This is absolutely as true as I'm sat here. Keith, if you don't mind, mate, I've got a beer here. I know you have a drink from time to time. Have you got one? Why don't we just sit, instead of telling stories, why don't we just sit and have a chat to Jan for a bit? And if you want to tell a story, you carry on and tell a story, and the same with you, Janet. But I'm quite happy to sit here for a bit and have a beer and just have a chat. Okay, what do you two think?
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Oh, we got someone else coming in. Go and see who this one is. Okay. I don't know who Peter is. Okay. Hello, Peter's iPad. Can you hear me? Anyway, I don't know if you two remember the time that I went to Marrakesh itself to do this from the Storytelling Centre. Were you about when I did that?
Yeah, well, I went to the first. See, because I'm so full of opiates, I can hardly bring my words out. I went to the first meeting, but I know that you went to take to investigate, didn't you, as well?
Well, I couldn't go to the first festival.
No,
because Lynn had been unwell, and she's now got a pacemaker and things. But when it came to take the decision to go or not, there was no way I could bugger up to Morocco for 10 days just then. So I said to John and to Mike Wood and Lucy Wood that I couldn't go. But I'd been doing this for 2 years or so, and then the pandemic had lessened a bit, and it was the November, so it wasn't last November, maybe the November before, or I think it was the November before. So I said, I'm going to go. I'm just going to go on a Friday. I'm going to do this and say thank you to Walid, who's there, and Zuhair, and Karim, and all the others that every time we come and sit in here at 6 o'clock on a Sunday, they'd always been here through the pandemic. They'd always turned it on. And I just wanted to go and say thank you to them all. Right. So hello, Peter, and hello, Karen. Right.
All right.
Okay. So anyway, so my family they've just sold it. They owned a taxi company down in Horsham, which is by Gatwick. So, Karen, you look as if you're on a boat. I don't know. You look as if.
Oh, I'm at the train station.
You're at a train station.
Yes, I'm just going back from London. We had a video shoot today, so I'm going back home now. But so I will be on the train. I'm probably just listening. So.
Right. Okay. Anyway, so I wanted to fly over to Marrakesh, which I'd never been to Africa before. So I flew over. And so I hopped on an airplane, and on the way out, if you go with EasyJet, there's 3 seats on one side and 3 seats on the other side. And the lady next to me, her name was Sasha, and she was 40 years old, and she was from her lot had come from the Pakistani side of the Punjab, and she was there with her second husband, who looked a bit like me, and they've got various kids and everything, and they dumped all the kids. They just got married. And they were having a few days away in Marrakesh. And physically, she looked beautiful. She was around 40 years old. And you know, you get talking about, she told me all about her history, about how when she was 15, she'd gone to see her sister's wedding in Pakistan, but it wasn't her sister that got married. They'd married her off to what she called, in her own words, an unwashed Paki. Right, and she had to stay there, and she had 2 children, and finally she got out, and she got back to the UK, and she did her qualifications, and she was an accountant with a big bank in the middle of London somewhere, and life was good for her. And I told her all about the storytelling, told her about the festival and some of the arguments and and how I was coming over because I'd been doing the Zoom meetings to meet Walid and Karim and Zuhair and the other Zuhair and all those others, and John Rowe himself. But I didn't actually want to go. And Lynn had a bit of a wobble, and I didn't really want to leave it, even for a shortish weekend like this. But I committed it, and Lynn said I had to go. And we talked to our neighbours, and our son came to check on her. My daughter came over, and there was a whole team of people that we'd arranged to be looking after her and everything else. But I still wasn't particularly happy with the idea, but I had to go. And the last thing that Lynn said as I got in the car to leave was, be nice to everybody. Right? That's exactly what she said. And I was anyway, so got on the airplane and everything else. Right? So I told her all about this. Right? So as we got off the airplane, I don't know if you've been to Marrakesh airport. It's a great big modern complex and everything else. There's thousands of people there, and there's a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's this lady, Sasha. And I said, hiya, what can I do for you? She said, Mike, she said, the last thing you said to your wife was she said to you was you had to be nice to everybody. And I went, yes. She said, try harder.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've got to go because dinner's on the table.
Oh, okay, then. Nice to see you.
I'll come back later, hopefully. All right.
Okay, then. Yeah.
You know, this
Right, anyway, so just to finish off, I got there, and of course, everybody was absolutely wonderful. Some of the nicest people I've ever met. We sat down there. I met Walid, and I thanked them all, and they'd looked after me. I'm a member of a club in Marrakesh because that's when you can get a pint of beer, Keith, because it's a Muslim country. And so you've got to be a member of a club to go there. And they joined me up before I even got there. All right. So it's the same when Mike Wood was in and all the other things. So Karim, what I'd said was that because there was only at the time when I was doing this, it was just Janet and Keith and I, and we're old friends. We were just going to have a chat and a talk and the thing, because Janet's a bit crocked up and she can't get out of the house very much at the moment. And anyway, we're sat here, and all I'm going to do is to go and light the fire outside or something and things. So I was quite happy to hang around for half an hour, and as much we can tell stories, or we can talk about telling stories, or if you want to tell a story, carry on and tell a story. But that, as there was only so few of us tonight, that's what I was thinking of doing. Okay, and it's really nice of you to log in, but you do look as if you're sat on a bloody ferry somewhere. You know?
Now I can tell, I can show you. Hang on, I've got it blurred. Kings Langley train station.
Kings Langley, where's that?
Watford area.
Watford. Oh, okay. And so, what have you been doing? You said you've been doing a shoot.
I've with my trio, we've done a video shoot for our new single release. We've got an album release in June, and we've just shot a video for the single that comes out soon.
So when you said that you were the younger sister of the other Pfeiffer, right, I was assuming that you were joking.
I was joking.
I didn't realise I was talking to someone famous.
No, I'm just a musician. I wouldn't call myself famous. Not yet. I'm
Right.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Right. So one of the things, everybody will tell you this about me, and I run festivals and things. I hate the word just. If someone says I'm just a housewife, or I'm just a this, or I'm just that, or something like that, and anybody says I'm just a musician, you're either a musician or you're not a musician. You never say I'm just a museum. I don't care. It's one of my hang-ups, and you'll get used to. If you get to know me a bit better, you'll hear me say that again all the time. It looks like the train's coming.
No,
So what have you been doing all day, Keith? You got your tractor out?
No, I haven't had tractor out for a while. It's in, well, I've got the mechanic coming in a few weeks' time, a couple of weeks' time to just bring it up to speed. Needs new distributor, new plugs and everything, but it's poorly at the moment, but it'll be mended soon. I've got a lot of mowing to do, so
Right.
so hopefully be ready by by the end of the month. Well, we know, yeah, end of the month, beginning of next month, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. It's nicely tucked up in the shed. So
Yeah, mine's the same. I haven't got mine out this time. So we're talking about old grey Fergie's, Janet. Old grey Ferguson's tractors. Mine's from 1947.
oh, right.
And it's one
Okay.
of the
I
original
think-
ones.
I thought mine was 1949, but it's 1950. I think when I looked at the logbook
Right.
the other day. So yeah, it's petrol paraffin.
Yeah,
Uh,
mine's petrol paraffin. Yeah, TBO it's called.
TBO, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to mix your own these days, don't you?
Yeah, they're rather special, aren't they, little grey Fergies? But I've got a Stiga mower, so it's the other end of the line. It's really something quite smart, and I daren't take it out because the ground is so wet and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very heavy machine that
Mm.
I'll get it so far and that will be it, and it will have to stay there forever because it's just, I don't know about what it's like where you are, but
Everything is so wet out in the paddock, which
Oh.
I mow with in the summertime with the Fergie.
yeah,
But I just don't go out on it with
No.
with the tractor or with the caravan. I just don't. We've got to try out and do caravan and the awning and that, but we just don't go on it because it'll just
No.
get stuck. It's
Mm.
been so wet, so wet.
So
Well,
we
yeah.
had some pulses of rain that came through last night, and they've got flood warnings on the River Severn again
Yeah.
because of last night. That's right.
Yeah.
So Karen, are you coming tomorrow to the club? No.
We're actually going on tour to Germany tomorrow. We've got 5 concerts over in Germany, so I won't be able to come, unfortunately. I will be
So
on the Eurotunnel train by the time the club is on.
So what's the name of your band?
Well, the duo is Paul Walker and Karen Pfeiffer. That's what we do when I go to Germany. That's what we're doing. And the trio that I've been
Karen.
Hmm?
Karen Pfeiffer and who?
it's Paul Walker, like the actor, and Karen Pfeiffer.
Paul Walker. Okay.
And Karen Pfeiffer, and the trio I've just been doing the video shoot with is Michelle Pfeiffer and Kulesh.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Foolish. So is it a
No. Kulesh, Michelle Pfeiffer and Kulesh.
Kulesh?
Kulesh. Kulesh.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Lesesh. Yeah.
So that's a cover band.
Oh no! All original, mainly original stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Right. And so if I can track you down on the end, you've got websites and stuff.
Oh yeah. If you put Paul and Karen into Google, you'll find our website.
Paul and Karen. Okay. Well, look
so
at a minute.
what genre of music?
Folk singer-songwriter.
Ah, right.
Folk singer songwriter. Hmm. So are you going to any festivals this year in the UK?
With the trio, we've quite a few. We play Sidmouth and Beardy and Moira and Wimbledon or something.
It's the Moira in Leicestershire. Ah, that's just up the road from where I live.
Oh really?
So,
Oh well.
yeah,
It's a lovely little festival.
Yes, it's an interesting place, that Moira, with it has a. I think Mike would like it a lot. I suspect Keith might like it too. But it's a furnace. Was an old furnace with the canal running by. So there's industrial archaeology to investigate there. It's quite fascinating.
And the festival is lovely. It's a small family festival. It's really nice and small and cozy, lovely festival. Yep.
Oh, right, cool. Oh, right, yeah. Have you ever been to Whitby?
No, I've heard lots about the festival, but we haven't been booked yet. No.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure what my influence. I used to be quite close to Whitby at one point, but I'm not sure how close my influence is. I'm having a year off this year anyway. Are you going up this
Okay.
year, Keith?
I'm going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
So-
been going every year for ages, yeah. But
Yeah. So back in the day, Karen, I did Sidmouth a couple of times as a storyteller. I did Glastonbury and I went to Whitby in about 1991, and I went every year to Whitby since for the next 30 years.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, we just didn't go because Lynn comes from that part of the world, and the fee was a little cottage in the old town and a couple of £100 and that, and odd bits and pieces. And I used to walk in, and I used to call them the outlaws. My mother-in-law was there, and the kids, cousins and things, and they, because suddenly the guys coming down from Teesside had a base in Whitby. They could use the cottage that we had, so you had even the ones with the little babies. They could come down because we had a bathroom and a kitchen and things like that. So they could come
brilliant.
out for a day and not have to worry about it, which was absolutely great. The trouble was, over the years, those little babies turned into teenagers.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so Whitby's a lovely place. If you want to try and get Sue Houston is the person who does the bookings. I can give you an email for her, but I can't.
I've written her many emails, so
Have you?
so it's one of these things, when they haven't seen you, they are not. They've got so much that they get, and unless somebody puts a word in for you and you get a recommendation, you may as well.
Well, I can tell you what they used to say when I was about there, because they'd hear a name from someone like me would turn up and say, "Why don't you book Karen and Paul?" And then Malcolm would say that name would come up again a week later from somebody else, someone completely from the Highlands of Scotland or someone. Someone would say, "I heard these two," and then the third time someone would say, from like Cornwall. Have you heard about that? And he said, when the third one came in, I go, right, well, we better have a look at these.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to say it. Yeah.
And that's still the case, but if you just send an email, I've been applying for years and doesn't happen, unfortunately. It's a shame. We played Saltburn, we've played a few times at the Cuddy Wren Folk Club and everything, and it's always been great nights, and I don't know why these things sometimes don't happen. So
yeah. Well, it is in the lap of the gods some days. I do think that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you come and watch us, and then you can recommend us.
No, I'll recommend you anyway. So you're part of our gang now.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whether you want to be or not, you're part of our gang now. So,
Yeah.
what about Bromyard and Warwick?
Again, you have to. I've been highly recommended to Warwick. We've played Warwick Folk Club. They had the best. They said they've had the best night for since COVID, and this was 1.5 years in after COVID. And he sent a recommendation, but people are just
right.
You just don't know what floats their boat.
Yeah, the last couple of years, Warwick's been in a transitional mode because Dick Dixon's taken a step backwards and Ross has taken over. So it was a bit of falling between two stools or something like that, I would think. It is settling down a bit. Ross is now pretty much in charge of all of it nowadays. And he's a really nice lad, so yeah.
Well, I'm wondering because what's his name? Keith Donnelly is there in the summer, and he said he's going to have this fun competition or something like that. And I was wondering whether to just go and tell a couple of stories, and maybe we get a music spot somewhere, and maybe we'll just if we're free. I don't know if I've got a booking that weekend or not. I have to check.
We'll go and do a pop up. Yeah, why not? It always goes down well. Anyway, how far do you live from Warwick?
From Warwick?
Yeah.
1:45, maybe 1.5 hours.
Yeah, it's not like you've got to go to Johnny Gropes or anything, is it? You can
no,
pop
that's
down.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So especially if maybe Keith puts a word in for us, maybe that's what's working then.
Well, I saw Keith last time up in Whitby. We were together doing something in one of the storytelling rounds. We got together. We had to have beer afterwards. We hadn't seen each other for ages. He lives in Leamington. Or he used
know,
to.
yeah.
He lives quite close to Warwick. Yeah, yeah. Right. So either of you three. Well, Karen, she sat on a train because I can see out the window and I can see the train moving. So,
Yeah, it would have
Keith,
been
do you
very
want to? Are you set
would
up
have
to
been
do a
very
story? Do you want to do one? Peter, I see you come back. Do you want to do a story tonight?
No, thank you.
No, right. Okay.
I would love to tell you the story of the Guernsey fisherman Henry, but I think it's a little bit cheeky to do that on a train for the other passengers. But I'll do it
Well,
another time.
are you going to come over in May to the club?
Is it? It's the second Tuesday, Monday, isn't it?
Second
Is it?
Monday, aye.
Yeah. Again, we're away in Italy.
Oh, it's hard work, but someone's got to do it, haven't they? we're sat here chatting away because Janet over there's gone and broke her leg and she can't sort of get out very much. And we're just
sorry
sat
to
here
hear
having
that.
a drink and a chat. And you're in Germany and you're in Italy. So
Yeah, but in
Gritting my
June,
teeth.
yeah.
I hope in
Good
June
evening.
I can come.
Yeah. Good evening, Peter. It's nice to see you. As we've only got a few, we were just having a chat and a bit of a social occasion more than just telling stories tonight. If you want us to sit, because you've tuned in and you're really disappointed we're not doing stories, I'm sure we can find one
No,
each.
I'm not. There's times that stories and there's time for no stories.
Right. So where are you geographically?
Essex.
Essex. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a place I know very well, but I know that the East Anglia Storytelling Festival's at Stowmarket. How far is that from you?
Yeah. They've asked me to go along this year, so I'll go along. But I'll do. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Possibly playing pipe and table and telling a couple of ballads or whatever. I'm quite
Right.
laid back.
Is that where you play the pipe and
Table.
where you hit
Yeah.
a drum? That one.
That's one. Yeah.
Oh, right. Do you do that for Morris Tuck's team?
No, I do it. I have done, but my career was sort of all round storytelling, juggling, fire eating, walking the wire, playing pipe and table. You name it, I sort of did it. It's called survival.
So you know John Rowe quite well.
I know John Rowe from way, 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 way back.
Right.
We
Okay.
was on a course together in Thaxted, I think it was. Sort of an educational type of course. Somehow we were both on that. So, yeah.
Right.
I don't perform that much now. I mean, well, certainly I don't do the fire and all that sort of thing, but I don't really do much storytelling. I do once a month with Hannah Braceford at the Palace Theatre, where I started my career in 1972. So I still got association with the Palace Theatre in Westcliff. So I still do
doing what? What were you doing in 1972?
lighting design, stage management.
Oh, okay. Well,
But I also directed for them occasionally and all sorts of things. It goes on and on and on.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't regret any of it. Lovely time.
Well, absolutely.
And of course,
started.
storytelling in schools and things like you've all done, that sort of thing, or
Yeah.
museums, and it's good memories to look back on.
Well, that's right. I joined a Morris team in Ledbury in Herefordshire
Right.
in this 77, 78, 79, around then. And there was still, you go into a pub, we used to dance 3 pubs, and the last pub we'd have a session in. And if someone picked up a glass and banged it on the table and went, "Pray quiet for the storyteller," everybody would sit down.
Yeah.
And it was just still there, do you know? And Dougie Isles came out of the Dean, and one or two. You got a few monologues, and you got a few jokes,
Yeah.
and lots of little ghosty stories. The local ghost stories and things like that.
I danced. I played pipe and table from London to Norwich in the steps of Will Kemp, Shakespeare's clown, who Morris danced from London to Norwich and became Freeman of the City of Norwich.
Yes,
and
quite
he wrote,
famously.
well, as you know, he wrote Not My 9 Days Wonder. Mind you, it
Yeah.
did take him a bit longer than that, as you did a lot of wenching on the way, so I understand.
Well, I bet Malign's a perfectly innocent man. So, you know, how you can't turn around and say, like, it was just the women with Randy. That was all.
It's only what I've read.
I do think he was on a bit of a jolly by the sound of it, wasn't
Yeah, I think so. It was a publicity stunt, wasn't it, really?
he? Yeah. Well, yeah, but he got his publicity right, because we're still talking about it all these years
No, that's
later.
right. I mean, he performed quite a bit in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So he did better, I suppose. I mean, his pipe and tabor man, his name was Thomas Sly. I think that's a wonderful name.
Yeah.
So I played the part of Thomas Sly, mostly.
Right. So I was down in Gloucester with John Rowe on Thursday, and because I had an hour to spare, I went into the New Inn. And the New Inn in Gloucester is one of these where they called it the New Inn because they knocked the old inn down in 1125, and they built a new inn there. But it's on 2 levels, and Will Shakespeare used to go down there and perform in there when they were touring around.
Yeah.
That was the venue for Gloucester, that was, because they didn't have a theatre. But when you sit in there, you can see how it would work. It would be a theatre, you know, and they could perform all the plays there, and they did. And Will Shakespeare, who is known in Stratford-upon-Avon as Will Shakespeare, when you come down the river a bit to Evesham and Pershore, he's known as Bill the Shit. Because he didn't pay his bills on the early days, and his dad was even worse. But when he made a bit of money, they do say he went round and paid everybody. But he's still known as Bill the Shit. You follow the River Avon downriver to Evesham, Bidford, Evesham, Pershore, down to Tewkesbury. He's still called that to this day.
Well, Will Kemp, he actually danced for the King of Denmark in Ulsingor. And I presume that's how William the Shit, or whatever you like to call him, got the inspiration for well, I've forgotten what the place called now. What is it? What's from Ulsingor?
It's
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
It's Hamlet.
That's why I don't do much storytelling now, because I haven't got the memory. So I reckon that's how he based Hamlet.
But a couple of the characters were the king's butler or something. They took the names, didn't he? Yeah. Something along those lines. Yeah. Right. So it's all gone quiet. So where are you, Karen? Now, where have you got to?
I'm just checking. I think it's a place called Spring, which I've never heard of.
Right.
I hope I'm still on the right train. Too exciting to listen to. No, I'm going to Milton Keynes and have to get changed there, and then to Stafford.
So what time will you get in?
Home, 8:30. I think the train is in Stafford, and then another half an hour home.
Oh, right, okay. So it's not too bad.
So that's where you live, Stafford, is it?
Outside Stafford. Half an hour north.
Well, I'm about half an hour south of Stafford. So.
Oh, where are you?
Just north of Lichfield.
Oh yeah, lovely.
Yeah. So I think I always tend to forget. I don't forget, but it's not imprinted in my mind. Staffordshire is a long, narrow county, and you can be almost in a foreign land if you're in the north. And I'm not in the south, but I'm in the east. So that's quite near the bottom. So.
Yeah, you're talking about sort of Cannock or Rugeley or Ashby-de-la-Zouch or something, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I used to live by Ashby, little village called Normanton Super Heath.
Right.
So So yeah, it was a nice place to be. But
It's the
I'm not
nice-
there anymore.
It's the National Forest now.
I look out of my window. I can't see it because
Yeah, yeah.
it covers it covers my village, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's the one thing John Majors did do got right was planting. No, he planted. That was his idea, and he made it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been happening patchily. How far up does it come into Lincolnshire, Keith? Does it come in? Does it come into
No, it
Lincolnshire?
doesn't go that far. It
don't go
only
that
just
far,
it
no.
stops at Derbyshire, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Well-
there's sort of Derbyshire in between. Yeah.
Yeah, because my brother lives on the edge of the Charnwood Forest, so that's become the idea is to join up the forest of Cannock and the like and across. And not quite. I know how long it is, but I don't know how deep the forest is to be. How much it joins up with Sherwood and then up north of there.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, but we get trees planted everywhere now, which is grand as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It was a good initiative, I must admit. So, fair
Mm.
play. Do you know what we're talking about, Peter? The National Forest?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Do you,
boys.
yeah.
Mm.
Do you know what we're talking about?
Well, I know about Sherwood and what have you, and the big planting things that's going on now. I'm very much an environmentalist myself. I mean, I do wilding in the church. That's where I'm quite dazed at the moment. I've been all day in my local churchyard where I look after the wilding side of things. It takes some time and some energy at my age, I tell you. But yes, I'm all in for that.
Yeah. So we do the festival. I had to explain to the Arts Council. Well, I went and bought 5. This is a surprisingly difficult thing to do. Say, Dutch elm disease-free elm trees. And there were 75 quid each. And so we bought 5 of them. And then I had to explain to the Arts Council what I'd done with their money. So we sort of fudged it a bit here and there. And 1 or 2 people agreed that what they got in artistic fees was a little bit more than we actually paid them. So we could plant the trees there. And Kath Edwards came over and helped me with her then part of the pool. So Kath and I planted those. They're at the top of the Wenlock Edge now. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be something worth leaving behind us all.
Yeah. Where I used to live in Eastwood, because I actually live in Leigh-on-Sea, and when I used to live in Eastwood, which is a part of Leigh-on-Sea, a bit north, just a little bit north, it's all part of. And I lived in a place called Kent Elms, but they fell foul
Right.
to Dutch elm disease when I was a boy, actually.
Mm.
And there's none there now, but they still call it Kent Elms, which is nice.
Well, yeah, it's Seven Oaks, isn't it? After that big storm, there's only one left, wasn't there? But I used to work for the Forestry Commission.
Right.
Down in the Forest of Dean, there was a great big old ash tree. And it was hundreds of years old, and the storm took the top out, so we had to knock the rest out. So we knocked the rest out. And there was a great big stump, and it was by a crossroads. And the name of that crossroads became known as where the ash tree was. Now, you explained something, someone like Karen, right, who's, not sort of familiar with the Forest of Deans, and you say, right, you need to go to a pub, Karen. Turn right, turn left, go to where the ash tree was, and go straight on. And to this day, there's another one down there called Godfrey's Hollow, and it's Godfrey's Hollow is the start of the story, but it's not because he's named Godfrey like the name of a person. It's because there's no God there, so it's a free of a god. So it's Godfrey's Hollow because that's where the mound was, where the imp comes out with the magic horn, and it's called Godfrey's Hollow, and it's in various different locations depending on who you talk to.
Well, Eastwood, where I came from, where Eastwood, Kent Elms, Eastwood, that was the eastern wood of the Great Forest, the Great Wood, which was all part of Epping Forest.
Oh, right.
in the past, and it was very much for hunting and that. I get very annoyed actually because I went to Eastwood School, which was basically a traveller's school, I suppose, and my father was a traveller anyway, but that wasn't part of it. We used to have a crest when we was in the juniors or the infants. We used to have a crest on our blazers, which was a crossbow that sort of showed sort of the idea of the hunting forest and what have you. And when you went to senior school, you didn't have a crossbow anymore. You had a stag's head. But of course, now they've made it into one of the, what are these schools called now? I've forgotten that now.
Academies.
Yeah.
Academy.
So the badges have gone. So the whole history, which was there on the school badge, has, it's just dispersed. It's gone. There's nothing, and it really gets up gets my goat. Really, we keep changing things, and the history will be lost if it isn't people like yourselves, myself, or whatever. Sort of bring it up now and again. And say, well, that's why Eastwood was called Eastwood, because it was part of the eastern woods of the Great Forest, which joined onto Epping and shot all the way up, I suppose, in time. It would run up to Sherwood. I don't know,
Yeah. Well, it's the same as if you get to the top of Church Stretton along here on the Welsh Marsh, there's All Stretton, then there's Lower Wood, and there's the Lee at the bottom of the wood that they call Lee Botwood. And it's the knowledge is still there. You hear about it. Some people talk about it in pubs and things when it comes up. The people who live there, and they're still in all the old villages. There's been a lot of transit in the immigrant populations, but there's still in most places people that have never moved and still live there.
Yeah.
And in Shropshire here, there's always people like that, and they know. And nowadays they are writing. It's on the village I live in is Cardington, and Cardington has a website, and on the website there's the history of the village, and they have one and gone and got it, and got it written down, and it's there. And once it's there on a website, that it's going to stay there. Isn't it?
How near are you from where? I don't know that place you live. In reference to Oswestry, you say you're Shropshire.
Yeah, Oswald's Tree. That's the name of the town because Oswald got hung on it. Says Oswald King. He was a king from Northumberland. Yeah, Oswald's Tree. I'm about half an hour on a good day.
Right. Yeah, that's where I did my training for the army.
Oh, you were there, were you? Oh, I know where you were. Yeah, I know where you were. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a housing estate now, isn't it?
Yeah. There's lots of stories about young squaddies and what they got up to. And there's ladies in the room, so we're not going to go into that.
No.
I mean, to say I wouldn't like to embarrass you or anything, but there's quite a few stories about that type of stuff. Yeah. Just recently,
very near to that, Mike, there was I think a world famous orthopedic hospital, wasn't there?
Yeah, Gabowen.
Right.
Yeah. Just recently, there's a pub. Well, about 10 years ago now, there's a pub in the middle of Oswestry called the Fox, and it was quite a long, narrow, the frontage, and then it sort of went way back, and it was where all the bloody, rubbish from Oswestry used to go and have a drink.
Are you talking about squaddies?
No, I'm talking about the ones that smoked things and didn't work and didn't wash and everything else like that. Anyway, so a guy who took it over because it was derelict for a bit, and there's some squatters in there and all sorts of things. So anyway, he was a sergeant in the Royal Marines, and so when he retired, he bought the pub, and his pals came and they did it all up and everything else. And when they opened it at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he opened it. And this guy come in and went, "What's he doing?" So this sergeant fella turned around and said, "We don't want you in here." Hit him once on the nose and threw him back out the door. So then it got to be a bit of a ruckus because some of his mates had turned up. Then the police turned up. The police decided that it was probably best to turn a blind eye because there was going to be trouble about this. Then this young lady turned up with a little baby. And she didn't speak English very well. Her husband had come over to work in the farms and things. And she wandered in. And yet, when you see squaddies being really polite, aren't they really nice? Yeah, come and sit down, have a cup of tea for the one. Could we get something for the baby? You'd be very come and sit by the fire. Da 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 da. Somebody else walked in. No, you can tell. Bang. Anyway, the police thought it was wonderful because that was one problem they didn't have to solve. And I've been in there, and it's the last place anybody would kick off in any trouble. You know, the last thing you're going to do is kick off trouble in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Going back to trees and place names, just down the road from where I live, there's a place called Ollerus, and
Arrowworth. Yeah.
it's by the National Arboretum.
Yeah.
It's very wet down there, and I lived in a village close by, and I used to wonder, why is Ollerus called Ollerus? It's not easy to say. And I'd looked at it and I kept thinking and thinking and thinking, and it suddenly dawned on me. And I don't know if Karen, you would how good your German is, but of course, Wasser is water. I don't speak. I know a few nouns and a few bits, and so I don't have conversational German. And I'm looking at this, I think, well, what's the other bit? The beginning part of it. Wasser, yeah, we're at the confluence of the Meese and the Dove and the Trent, but it's Aldera is the old English word for alders. So it's the place of the alders by the water. I think
Well, no, I would beg to differ because
yeah,
was WAS at the
no,
end of
double S.
right, WAS or double S
Mm.
is the old Saxon word for a place that floods.
Well, it's yeah, okay.
Okay, so it's a place that floods, so it's a swamp.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, okay.
I've missed that. I've missed that explanation. We've just gone through a tunnel and we are all frozen.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you get there's a place down, I know there's along. I can name half a dozen of these. So let's go for Rotherwas, right, which is down in Herefordshire. The WAS at the end of it means that that's the place that floods.
Yeah, well,
It's
this
by the side of a river and it floods, and it's there's Build was, there's this was, and that was. There's all sorts of different places. So, and if it's to do with older, in the Saxon, then that would be the place of the alders where the river floods.
well, that would be
Alder,
fine.
Arrow was.
Yeah,
That's what it would be. Yeah.
well, that's fine. When the Arboretum was established a long time ago, the lot of trees were planted, and some of them were alders, but some of them were beech and so on and so forth, and it flooded. Of course, the area flooded, and a lot of the trees drowned. They didn't recover, and everybody around was saying, well, you put the wrong trees in, didn't you? Right? And the people who ran it said, well, what do we do? And everybody said, why don't you just plant willow? And so that's what they did. And they planted the willows, and of course the willows thrived. They also drew up some of the water. It's been drained a lot now, but it's quite beautiful to go there because also, and moving on, just trees, at the Arboretum, they have planted a grove of oak trees and underneath bluebells. And this is to signify Royal Oak ships, and the bluebells are the water. And this is a tribute to the Merchant Navy, Royal Navy during the war. It's a really fascinating place. And if you haven't been there, I think you should go just to see the different variety of trees and what's been done there. It's really fascinating.
Right. So Peter and Karen, because I'm pretty certain Keith knows. Do you know where we're talking about? Do you know what we're talking about? You've been. Right.
No.
So it's the national memorial for everybody who's been killed since 1945 that aren't in the military. So
I think it was.
it came
Oh,
from
and the
private-
military.
Yeah, and then it's grown since, hasn't it? It's grown. But the thing, I went to find my cousin who went down in the first Gulf War in a tornado, and there's a great big marble in the middle of it, raised up on a hill, there's a great big marble sort of surrounds like Stonehenge, and there they put all the names. And the thing that saddened me was that
Yeah, I know.
one day that's going to be full of names. However long it takes, it's going to be full of names. And at the moment, when I went there, it was less than 5% of the space that they'd put there had been put in, and there was all these names of all these very brave people who'd done amazing things to get themselves there. But just one day, it was just going to be full of people, and that made me sad.
Yeah, it makes me,
Because,
I think it
It
was
make-
on card
makes me
tonight.
sad. And
Yeah.
we used to run storytelling at the Arboretum a long time ago, long before COVID. But eventually it folded for reasons I won't go into. But it's such I don't know. It's an area which uses the natural environment to to I don't know what you would call it, not promote, but to congratulate people who've done wonderful things, but also to console people. Because my sister has lost young children and babies and so on, and there's a small garden there dedicated to stillbirth and early prenatal death and so on. And the whole of the area, when you go in, you have to sort of steel yourself, if you like, because you know that at some point or other, there's something that's going to make you swallow very hard and look down. I always feel like that when I go, there's the one for the Shot at Dawn. I always feel like that when I go to that area. And the other one that always makes me gasp is the Gallipoli Memorial. And it's just such a learning process and an emotional process, and the trees. So it's grand place to be.
Yeah, it is well worth having a visit. But it's like you day, you have to sort of steel yourself. Something's going to hit you at some point or another. Really
Have you
is,
been
yeah.
at the German War Memorial in Cannock Chase?
Yes,
Right?
I have. Yes.
Mm.
A very good
Yes.
friend of mine used to go there from Shropshire once from time to time and sit there and read the names on the stones.
Wow.
He used to just stand there, he used to take a bottle of wine and he used to walk up and down about this time of the year in the evening, and he'd just read the names off because he reckoned that nobody else would do it. And if you read a name, it means that
They remembered.
whatever the conflict was, they were airmen who had been shot down over our country, and they were buried there. And that everybody ought to be remembered is what he said. So
Yeah. I was taking my granny when she was visiting many years ago. I was taking her and her friend there, and of course they are, the lived obviously in those days, and they quite liked it. I loved it. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, absolutely. It's 80 years ago now, isn't it? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole load of gravestone humour stories. So under this sod there lies another one. Is one. Things like that. And my dad was the president of the Burial and Cremation Society, and he knew quite a few of them. But there's one in Herefordshire, and it's a sea captain, and he wanted to be buried somewhere in Herefordshire where he could listen to the water, because that had been his life. So on one side of the stream, he's buried by a stream, and the other side of the stream is his wife, because she wanted to be buried the other side of the stream, because water had kept them apart all their day and when they were alive, and that water would keep them apart from when they were dead, from when they would die. So there's two gravestones there. One is Mr. and one is Miss, and a stream comes down to the middle. But when they came to dig the hole for her, they hit hard rock and they couldn't do it. So they actually opened up his grave and put her on top of him and closed it back up again. So the two gravestones are there, but the two coffins are on, when you look upstream to your right, and she was put on top of him. And so they're together in death. I just hope that's what they wanted. Well, that's what he wanted anyway.
Yeah.
But that's what happened.
You know, you talk about gravestone humor. This isn't quite well. It's humorous to me because I can see the funny side of it. It might not be to anybody else, but there are things that you learn as you go through life. And I didn't know this fact until my husband died and he was to be cremated. And so the people at the crematorium said, would you like his metal back? I said, what? What metal? Right? Thinking that they meant things like rings and maybe even gold teeth. And I said, well, I've taken his ring and doesn't have any gold teeth. And he said, no, the metal in his body. And I thought, what are you talking about? Well, apparently, the people at the crematorium sort through the ash. It sounds a bit gruesome, really. And if there's any metal, they can't get rid of it in the normal way. And apparently, it goes to charity.
Yeah.
And I hadn't.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
'Cause
And I had no idea that happened.
yeah, so some of the metal is really, really expensive because it's titanium and things to make up for the joints and things like that. And so, it all goes back. I think it goes to the poppy appeal.
Well,
I think it does. I'm not sure.
It may have done in some places, but apparently each crematorium chooses its own charity, and it's changed each year according to the place that I was talking, the people I was talking with. But I thought that was quite just one of those things that it kind of astounded me, and I just have to laugh it away. In that my husband's metal, he had a metal in his arm from a motorbike accident, but it went to the British Heart Foundation. I thought, oh, he'll probably approve of that, you know.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. And he hadn't told you all the years.
What, that he had the metal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he had the metal, but I didn't know it would be saved, and I didn't know that I could claim it and I could keep it if I wanted it. So, but I didn't. You know, the ashes, that's quite enough. I can't be carrying a whole armful of metal around with me where I go. So,
so what did you do with the ashes? Have you still got them, or have you spread them somewhere?
I still have them, as a matter of fact. What we took, he was my second husband, so took some of the ashes and put them in a pouch for his 3 sons. And then I still got the rest, and they're in a box in my bedroom. So at night I can say, good night, David, or have a little moan if I want. But I haven't scattered them anywhere. I don't really want him to go yet. I'm not ready. No.
Well, that's right. I don't know if you knew Richard Walker, the storyteller. Did you know Richard?
No.
He was with us. He didn't quite make it into this century, but he was with us in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
No.
And when he died, I said, oh, we better have a bench, and we put it up on the Wenlock Edge. And Amy Douglas said these words, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do that for you. I went, you're going to do what? She said, well, we'll do that for you. She said, turned around and walked off. I was sat there, I was going, oh. Yeah.
I swim all the year round, you know, because it's only just down the road for me to get into the water. Leoncie's got a few wolves, and one of them's Bell Wolf. And I was swimming quite happily there. And I tend to do the breaststroke, so I'm very much like that. And someone came along onto Bell Wolf with a whole party, a funeral party. It came onto Bell Wolf and started scattering.
Oh, no.
And I was under straight away.
Oh no!
I've never dived so quick in all my life.
Yeah. Well, I try to go wild swimming from time to time.
Yeah.
But the rivers are so rubbish nowadays. You don't want to go swimming in the rivers right there. But there is a place up in the back of the hills, which is an old reservoir and places like that. So, but they all went this morning at 9:30, and I didn't make it. But I haven't really got going again this year. I did a couple in January, but then I stopped, and it's getting started again.
It's getting started once you stop. Yeah.
Yeah, but I went last week for the first time, but it's a bit remote and you're not supposed to go by yourself. And when I got there was nobody up there much, and they go a bit early because they meet at 9:30 on a Sunday morning, and I've got to. It's about 20 minutes away, I suppose. And I'm not really moving on a Sunday morning since then.
So exhilarating.
Can I just say I must go because that call that I stopped, they're bringing me back, and I think it might be important.
Right. Well, I was
So,
going to say we'll stop about 7 o'clock. I know we haven't been telling stories, and I hope you haven't minded, but I've had a lovely chat. And Karen, it's lovely to see you and have you logged in. And we do know an awful lot of stories, and I'm sure this summer try and get to the East Anglia Storytelling Festival if you can, or one of the festivals. And Keith and I and Janet, and I'm sure Peter, we've got loads of stories that we can teach you. We really would.
I think so. But willing to share. Yes.
Willing to share is what we do. And it's lovely to see you again. And thanks for logging in.
Bye. I must go. Bye.
You go. Away you go. Okay.
Bye, Janet.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're in Stowmarket, Peter, you and I will sit and have a beer.
Well, I don't drink, but I'll certainly join you.
Well, we don't mind you joining us and buying beer for us.
Depends how many of you.
Well, it'd just be me and John Rowe and Keith, probably.
No, is it you're around then? Is it you're around, Mike? That'll be in Stowmarket.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll buy the first one. I promise to buy the first.
Dave Tong's going to be there, isn't he?
Oh, well, that's 5.
Yes. Yeah.
Dave's a really nice lad. I like.
And then Shane. Yeah, I like Dave. And then Shane, isn't he? I think he's on the bill, isn't he?
Oh, well, he can buy his own beer. And
so he should. He lives in Chelmsford, right?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
As well.
Anyway, Karen, you have a good journey. See you there, mate. Bye bye. So I'm going to call it now. Okay.
Okay.
Bye. Lovely to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye bye.